Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Hockey Talk with TG Podcast. I'm Ty Glenn. Hope you guys are having a great Tuesday. For those who are listening to the podcast on YouTube, you can finally see my face once again. I didn't show my face on YouTube because I was recording on my MacBook Pro, and when I try to export video files like this, it won't work, and because the file is too big on my Chromebook, I don't have that problem or issue. So yeah, that's kind of why I'm recording on my Chromebook for this episode of Hockey Talk TG Podcast, and also because I am on spring break. So we are recording at home, not in the studio, recording. So I'm on spring break. Everybody has a day off, or a week off, I should say. I just figured, you know what, since it's spring break or so, let's record this episode of the Hockey Talk with TG Podcast on my Chromebook and give the people who listen to the podcast on YouTube them to see my face and my hand movement and stuff, like it was before when I was recording my episodes of my Hockey Talk TG Podcast on my Chromebook. So just a couple announcements for today. Unfortunately, I was unable to get out an episode recapping the NHL Trade Deadline for this weekend. Had a change in my schedule. But there were some interesting trades at the deadline that I wanted to have a brief discussion about. Biggest trade that stuck out to me was John Carlson getting traded to the Anaheim Ducks for a conditional first-round pick in the 2026 NHL Draft and a third-round pick in the 2027 NHL Draft. Now, this trade kind of really shocked me and kind of also was why I said this was the biggest trade that stuck out to me at the deadline, considering that John Carlson played all of his career up to this point with the Washington Capitals, played 17 seasons with the Capitals, won the Stanley Cup with them in 2018. I thought he was going to be a Capital for life. I thought he was going to play all his NHL career with the Washington Capitals, and I was just kind of shocked to see him getting traded off to the Anaheim Ducks. Also, Ovechkin said that when that trade happened, it was quote-unquote the saddest day of his NHL career. So I think a lot of people, especially if you're a Capitals fan, were kind of shocked to see John Carlson getting traded to the Anaheim Ducks. It's just, I don't know. But the Capitals will probably sell us at the deadline. Ducks are obviously buyers since they're in a playoff spot right now. So we'll see what happens with John Carlson in Anaheim and see if he can still be the same defenseman that we saw in all those years with the Washington Capitals and probably win a Stanley Cup with the Anaheim Ducks. We'll just have to see how that will go. And then another trade that I thought was really interesting, Corey Perry getting traded to the Tampa Bay Lightning from the LA Kings for a second-round pick in the 2028 NHL Draft. So Corey Perry was on the Tampa Bay Lightning before. He played for the LA Kings and now getting traded back to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Still trying to chase that second Stanley Cup because he won a Stanley Cup in 2007 with the Anaheim Ducks. Hasn't won one since. And he's been on team after team after team after team, trying to chase for that second Stanley Cup. How old is he though? Let me look that up. He's 40 years old, so he's still trying to chase himself that second Stanley Cup. Tampa Bay Lightning are already doing very well. One of the top 10 teams in the league. And Corey Perry, he's been on the Dallas Stars, now the Montreal Canadiens, Tampa Bay Lightning, Edmonton Oilers, LA Kings, and now coming back to familiar territory in Tampa Bay Lightning, hoping to get a second Stanley Cup with the team. Another trade that I saw, Brayden Schenn getting traded to the New York Islanders from the St. Louis Blues for a 2026 first and third round pick for Jonathan Drouin and goaltender Marcus Gitloff. And the Islanders actually play the Blues today, so it will probably be an emotional game as Brayden Schenn returns to St. Louis. He won a cup with them in 2019. Was it he or Alex Pietrangelo, the team captain that year for that St. Louis Blues Stanley Cup? team in 2019. I think it was either him or Alex Pietrangelo who wore the C when the Blues won the Cup in 2019. But anyway, that was another interesting trade. And then after that, Chicago Blackhawks trading their captain, Nick Foligno, to the Minnesota Wild for future considerations. So Nick Foligno will be playing with his brother Marcus on the Minnesota Wild. And this is the first time in their NHL career that the Foligno brothers are playing for the same team. And this is a great trade for the Chicago Blackhawks because it's obviously doing Nick Foligno a favor, getting the chance to play with his brother and chasing for a Stanley Cup in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Because the Wild are in a playoff spot and they're a playoff team. So we'll see how that will go. And then another player who's returning to familiar territory, Nazem Kadri, as he gets traded back to the Colorado Avalanche, along with a 4th-round pick in the 2027 NHL Draft from the Calgary Flames, for a conditional 2028 first-round pick, a conditional 2027 second-round pick for Victor Olofsson, and unsigned forward prospect Max Millen Karan. So Nazem Kadri, he won the Stanley Cup with the Colorado Avalanche back in 2022. Avalanche, one of the top 3-5 teams in the league, looking to run it back again with the Avs, heading to 2026 Stanley Cup playoffs. And there was many more trades after that, but I just wanted to have a few minute discussion on some of the most notable trades that I felt like stuck out to me. And notable players that weren't traded at the deadline, Jordan Binnington, there's rumors saying that he might get traded at the deadline, but he ended up staying put with the St. Louis Blues. Robert Thomas, another Blues player, he was actually one of the top trade targets heading into the 2026 NHL Trade Deadline, but he remained on the St. Louis Blues. And then Sergei Bobrovsky, another name that we thought was going to get moved at the trade deadline. I don't even know why he was rumored to get traded at the deadline. I think the Panthers were still trying to keep him on the team and re-sign him. And then everybody started saying, "Oh, Sergei Bobrovsky might get traded." But I didn't think that was going to happen, though. Vincent Trocheck did want to leave the Rangers at one point to go win the Cup. But he ended up staying put on the Rangers. And Matthew Nyes, another player that we thought was going to get traded at the deadline, he ended up staying put on the Toronto Maple Leafs. But yeah, that's my discussion of the NHL Trade Deadline. Let me know you guys' thoughts on how did you like the NHL Trade Deadline. Was your teams losers or winners at the deadline? Or what did you think of the NHL Trade Deadline? I know today's March 10th. The deadline was last Friday on March the 6th, but we can still have a discussion about it, of the NHL Trade Deadline. As a Blackhawks fan, I felt like even though we were going in as sellers at the deadline, I still felt like we were winners with that because we traded Nick Foligno to the Minnesota Wild, gets the opportunity to win a cup with his brother Marcus. And then we traded Connor Murphy to the Edmonton Oilers. We know that he has some dark years during his time in Chicago, never complained once. Now he gets the opportunity to go win a cup with the Edmonton Oilers after being on some of the tough, terrible years with the Chicago Blackhawks and never getting a taste of playoff hockey. If we don't count the bubble, I mean, the Blackhawks did make the playoffs in 2020 in the bubble, and ironically, they beat the Edmonton Oilers in the qualifying round that year, and then they faced the Vegas Golden Knights, in which they lost to them in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. But Connor Murphy gets a taste of actual playoff hockey and gets a chance to do that with the Edmonton Oilers. And the Blackhawks also traded Jason Dickinson and Colton Dach to the Edmonton Oilers for Andrew Mangiapane and I think a draft pick as well. Another good trade. Trading Colton Dach did hurt though for us, but I'm hoping Andrew Mangiapane gets to be a physical player for the team because we need physicality in our forward group for the Chicago Blackhawks. We saw him getting mixed up in a couple scrums already, most recently in the Blackhawks game against the Utah Mammoth with Clayton Keller. He actually scored his first goal as Chicago Blackhawk in that game, by the way. So yeah, we didn't have a bad trade deadline. I felt like we came away as winners. Even though we were going in as sellers at the deadline, I still think we came away as winners. We also have one of the we're also one of the top youngest teams in the league, by the way, with moving out some of those key veteran players, and Nick Foligno, Connor Murphy, and Jason Dickinson. I wish we still kept Colton Dock, but it is what it is. But yeah, I just wanted to mention stuff about the deadline, things about the Chicago Blackhawks, as I am a Blackhawks fan. And yeah, we'll move right into the NHL news for today. But before we go ahead and do that, make sure to like and subscribe to the Hockey Talk with TG Podcast YouTube channel. And make sure to follow the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. Episodes coming out every Tuesday and Thursday from 1:30 p.m. to 2 o'clock p.m. Central Time, and then 2:30 p.m. to 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure to hit that follow button, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell button, so you can stay up to date on the latest episodes of the Hockey Talk with TG Podcast and the latest hockey news going around the league. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started into the NHL news for today. So we'll start things off with the madness game that was on Sunday, March the 8th, between the Buffalo Sabres and the Tampa Bay Lightning. People still talking about this two days later after the game. It was a crazy game, though. It was one of the highest scoring games of the season, with 15 total goals being scored as the Buffalo Sabres defeated the Tampa Bay Lightning with a 8-7 win in regulation in a Wild Atlantic Division showdown. And the offensive explosion made it one of the highest scoring games in the entire NHL season and a candidate for Game of the Year. This was a dramatic comeback win for the Buffalo Sabres as they rallied late after trailing during the third period. Sabres were trailing 7-5 in this game, and they came back and they won 8-7 on 3 late goals to seal the deal. Josh Dahlin had the game-winning goal on the power play for the Buffalo Sabres with 4 minutes and 17 seconds remaining in the third period to break the tie. He had a 2-goal game in general, but that power play goal was really crucial in the Sabres' comeback efforts against the Tampa Bay Lightning. This game was a back-and-forth game. Both teams traded leads throughout the night. The Sabres originally jumped ahead 3-0 and then eventually 4-1, putting Tampa Bay in the early hole. And then the Lightning responded with 5 consecutive goals, turning the deficit into a 6-4 lead before Buffalo rallied again. And then the teams then traded goals until the final power play winner was decided by Josh Dahlin to win the game for the Buffalo Sabres. And the Sabres offense stepped up in a big way in this game. Alex Tuch, Jason Zucker each scored twice in the win. Mr. TNT, Olympic gold medalist for Team USA, Tage Thompson, recorded 4 assists in the win. He extends his point streak to 11 games, in which he had 15 points during the span, 6 goals, 9 assists for 15 points during the 11-game point streak. Rasmus Dahlin, he finished the night with a Gordie Howe hat trick. And for those who don't know what a Gordie Howe hat trick is, it's when a player has 1 goal, 1 assist, and 1 fight in a game. So 1 goal, 1 assist, and 1 fight for a Gordie Howe hat trick. And Rasmus Dahlin got it done for the Buffalo Sabres. He played on Team Sweden in the Winter Olympics in Milan Cortina, Italy. Sam Carrick also had a goal for the Buffalo Sabres, while Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen made 22 saves on 28 shots faced in net. And for the Tampa Bay Lightning, their stars also delivered a big night in this offensive explosion of a game as defenseman J.J. Moser, superstar winger Nikita Kucherov, and defenseman Darren Radish each recorded 3-point gains for the Tampa Bay Lightning. J.J. Moser had a goal and 2 assists for a 3-point night, Darren Radish had 3 assists. Nikita Kucherov had 2 goals and assists for a 3-point night in this one. Nikita Kucherov is up to 1,097 career points, 391 goals, 706 assists for 1,097 career points and 861 career games played. He's 3 points away from becoming the second player in Lightning franchise history to notch 1,100 career NHL points, and the first one is Steven Stamkos, who had 1,137 career points with the Tampa Bay Lightning before going over to the Nashville Predators in free agency, when the Predators had that free agency superstar explosion. I think this was in 2023, 2024, when they signed Stamkos, Marchessault, and Shea, somewhere around that time. Nikita Kucherov had 103 points in 58 games played this season, 34 goals, 69 assists for 103 points in 58 games this season with the Tampa Bay Lightning for Nikita Kucherov. 6th time in his career that he has notched 100 and plus points in a season. He's 3rd in points this season in the league. Of course, first to Connor McDavid, which I think he had 108 points in the league this year, and then second one is Nate Mack with 104 104 points this season in the NHL. Zamis Gergensen, Brayden Point, and Brandon Hagel also scored for the Lightning. Brandon Hagel was another player in this game that had a Gordie Howe hat trick. 1 goal, 1 assist, and 1 fight in this game for Brandon Hagel. We all know he likes to drop the gloves. He did that twice with Matthew Tkachuk. One in the Four Nations for Team Canada, and then another one in regular season or preseason when the Lightning were taking on the Florida Panthers, and we saw Brandon Hagel, Matthew Tkachuk dropping the gloves. So Brandon Hagel's not afraid to throw it down, drop the mitts. Corey Perry had a goal for the Tampa Bay Lightning. This is his second goal with the Lightning since coming back to joining them at the trade deadline. Obviously, his first goal back with the team was on Saturday against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Last Saturday against Toronto, when he scored his first game back with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Jonas Johansson made 34 saves on 42 shots, faced the net. But let's talk about the game itself. The overall game between the Tampa Bay Lightning and Buffalo Sabres. This was a chaotic, madness, crazy, unbelievable, unreal game, fight-filled game to the finish between the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Buffalo Sabres. This game was extremely physical. This matchup included 5 fights and roughly 100 in penalty minutes between the two teams, 28 total penalties, 102 combined penalty minutes, multiple game misconduct penalties and scrums throughout the entire night. But that first period alone featured 70 penalty minutes. Only in that first period. That is crazy. Never seen that before in all my years of watching hockey. And Lightning forward Brandon Hagel, he was later fined $5,000 after an altercation with Rasmus Dahlin during the game. And this physicality added to the feeling of this game that this had playoff level intensity, which we all know the Buffalo Sabres and their mission to make the Stanley Cup playoffs after missing out for 15-year playoff absence, because I think they last made the playoffs in, correct me if I'm wrong, 2011, and if not 2011, then 2010. 2011 was, I think, the last time we saw the Buffalo Sabres in the Stanley Cup playoffs. 15 goals, like I said, was scored in this game between the two teams. Sabres had 8, Lightning had 7. 15 total goals, 102 penalty minutes. This game was crazy. No, I had never seen a hockey game like this before. And you guys know me, I been a hockey fan for a long time, and I never seen a game like this before. Like it is crazy, especially with where these two teams are at in the standings. I think the Sabres, with that win over the Tampa Bay Lightning, they are now in first place of the Atlantic Division, and they improved to 34-19-6 of the season with 84 points. And not only that, but they extend their winning streak to 7 games. So they went from 6 games to 7 games, 6-7. Love doing that trend. I know the kids like doing that trend as well, Mr. 6-7. The Sabres continue their 5-game homestand against the Macklin Brayden and the San Jose Sharks on Tuesday at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. The Lightning conclude their 4-game road trip with a 1-3-0 record as they return home for a 3-game homestand against the CBJ Columbus Blue Jackets on Tuesday at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. But now let's move from Buffalo to Columbus as Adrian Kempe scores twice in the LA Kings 5-4 overtime win over the Columbus Blue Jackets in Columbus, Ohio on Monday. He had the overtime game-winning goal in this game, scored 2 minutes and 34 seconds into overtime, 11th career overtime goal for him, and 4th overtime goal this season. And the Kings improved to 26, 23, and 14 of the season. 1 point out of a playoff spot, and we all know from March to April, these points are going to be very crucial and absolutely necessary. You can't be losing these games at this point in the season. Even if you get 1 point, even if you come away with 1 point, that is still a point. You need those points during at this point of the season. It's good to get the 2 points, but even if you come away with 1 point, that's still good. Where you are at this point in the season, you're trying to get into a playoff spot. This game was originally supposed to be on January 26th, but because of the winter snowstorms and the snow and stuff in January, this game got rescheduled to March the 9th. Brian Dumoulin had a goal and 2 assists for a 3.9 in this one. Artemi Panarin and Scott Lawton each had a goal and assist for a 2.9. Artemi Panarin used to play for the Columbus Blue Jackets, by the way, so getting a goal against his former team right there. Kind of crazy to see Artemi Panarin in the LA Kings jersey, after playing for the Blackhawks, Blue Jackets, and Rangers. I think most hockey fans know very well on those teams, especially when he was on the Blackhawks with Patrick Kane, maybe the Columbus Blue Jackets as well. They know him a lot more on those 2 teams. Maybe the Rangers as well, but most notably he was well known during his time on the Blackhawks and Blue Jackets before he went over to play for the Rangers. Anze Kopitar had an assist in this game. He extends his point streak to 4 games, in which he has 4 points during the span, 1 goal, 3 assists for 4 points during a 4-game point streak. Now has 1,305 career NHL points, 447 goals, 858 assists for 1,305 career NHL points. He's now 2 points away from tying Marcel Dion for the Kings franchise record of 1,307 career points. Anton Forsberg made 28 saves on 32 shots facing net in this game. And for the CBJ Columbus Blue Jackets, Connor Garland scored twice for them. Kirill Marchenko had a goal on the power play. I think he had, was it him or Denton Major? I don't know, but I think Marchenko had the power play goal to tie the game up for the Blue Jackets with 1:56 remaining in the third period. And then Denton Major had a goal and assist for a 2.9 for the Blue Jackets. Jet Greaves made 26 saves on 31 shots facing the net. And despite the loss, the Blue Jackets get a point in this game, and they extend their point streak to 6 games in which they are 3-0-3 during the span. And they are 13-2-3 since Rick Bowness took over as head coach back on January the 12th. And they are now 32-21-10 of the season, 2 points out of a playoff spot. The Blue Jackets started a 3-game road trip in Tampa Bay against the Lightning on Tuesday at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. The Kings continue their 5-game East Coast road trip in Boston, Beantown, against the Bruins on Tuesday at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. But moving on from Columbus to the Windy City, Chicago, Illinois, Frank Nazar scores the overtime game-winning goal in the Blackhawks' 3-2 overtime win over the Central Division foes, the Utah Mammoth, on Monday. Second career overtime goal for Frank Nazar, scored on the power play 2 minutes and 36 seconds into overtime, makes up for that missed breakaway opportunity he had in overtime before the power play goal. And the Blackhawks improved to 24, 29, and 11 of the season. They're now 3-0-0 against the Mammoth this season. Their last game of the season against the Mammoth is on Thursday, so these two teams getting familiar with each other quick. And before the game on Monday, they played them on March 1st, I believe, in Salt Lake City, and now going back to Salt Lake City on Thursday to take on the Utah Mammoth for their final meeting of the season. And this win was a emotional night for the Blackhawks, as the Blackhawks paid tribute to Troy Murray, who passed away at age 63 from cancer on Saturday. And Troy meant everything to the city of Chicago. He meant everything to the Blackhawks. He played with them from 1982 to 1991. He was a longtime radio analyst for the Blackhawks, and he really brightened up everybody's day. Everybody's day that he met on the team. So it was just an emotional night for the Blackhawks, the organization, the fans, and we really needed to get this win for Troy, and we finally did that, as Frank Nazar, number 91, scores the overtime game-winning goal in honor of number 19, Troy Murray. It was just an emotional night heading into this one at the United Center, coming back from a overtime loss to the Dallas Stars and getting that win 24 hours later against another Central Division team in the Utah Mammoth. And Troy Murray also won Stanley Cup with the Colorado Avalanche. That was back in 1996. He also played for the Winnipeg Jets as well, and I think he played for another team after that, but he will always be a Chicago icon. He will always be forever known for his time with the Chicago Blackhawks, both as a player and radio analyst for WGN Radio. So he's never forgotten. Never forgotten. Andrew Mangiapane, he also had a goal in this game for the Blackhawks. Of course, he was acquired in that Edmonton Oilers trade for Jason Dickinson and Colton Dach. Andre Burakovsky scored for the Blackhawks, and this was his first goal since January the 7th. He missed the open net from in close during the first period, and he scores a, mini Michigan type of goal almost. So I'm pretty sure that had to feel good for him. And when you watch that goal from Andre Burakovsky, you go back and watch that goal, he had a sigh of relief to the heavens. Like he was looking out after he scored that goal. So you can tell how much that goal really meant to him. First goal in a long time for Andre Burakovsky. Connor Bedard recorded 2 assists in the game, and that is his 116th career NHL assists, to surpass Eddie Olczyk for the most assists by a Blackhawks player aged 20 or younger. He also tied Dennis Savard for the most by a Blackhawks player at age 20 or younger. Drew Commesso made 22 saves on 24 shots, faced the net. He was recalled from Rockford on Saturday because Spencer Knight is still out with an illness. He is sick. And Drew Commesso is now 2-1-0 with the Blackhawks this season, which included a 3-0 shutout win in the Music City, Nashville, Tennessee, against the Predators on January the 10th. And for the Utah Mammoth, Barrett Hayton and Dylan Gunther has scored for the Mammoth. Vika Vanacek made 23 saves on 26 shots faced the net. And the Mammoth's 3-game win streak comes to an end in which they dropped to 34, 25, and 5 of the season. First place in a wild card spot, though, in the Western Conference with 73 points. So they got a point out of this one. But they are going to be looking to get a huge 2 points when they take on the when they take on the Minnesota Wild on Tuesday to wrap up their 5-game road trip before facing off with the Blackhawks again on Thursday at home. That game against the Minnesota Wild will come on Hulu and ESPN+. That is a 7 o'clock p.m. puck drop, so another Central Division showdown for the Utah Mammoth, this time against the Minnesota Wild. Other games from the Monday slate: New York Rangers win 6-2 against the Philadelphia Flyers in its Metropolitan Division showdown. Mika Zibanejad scored twice against the Flyers. Also had an assist for a 3-point night. Vincent Trocheck finished with 3 points. Alexi Lafreniere had a golden assist for a 2-point night. And the special teams for the Rangers came up clutch as they went 3 for 4 on the power play and 2 for 3 on the penalty kill. Washington Capitals extinguished the Calgary Flames with a 7-3 win on Monday, and then the Ottawa Senators shut out the Vancouver Canucks 2-0. James Reimer with a 16-save shutout performance, and the Senators extended a point streak to 7 games in the process, and they got goals from Riley Gray and then an empty net goal from Brayden Tkachuk in the third period to seal the deal. Taking a look at the NHL games on the slate for today. There's 13 games on the slate. It's a busy schedule. Starting with the LA Kings taking on the Boston Bruins at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. Followed by the San Jose Sharks taking on the Buffalo Sabres at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. And then we got the Toronto Maple Leafs taking on the Montreal Canadiens at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. That's an original 6 showdown. And an Atlantic Division rivalry showdown between the Leafs and the Canadiens. Canadiens in a wild card playoff spot in the Eastern Conference. The Leafs, surprisingly, are out of a playoff spot. And like I said one time on the Hockey Talk Tuesday podcast, this will be the first time in Austin Matthews' career that he misses out on the Stanley Cup playoffs if this does happen this season. And then we got CBJ, Columbus Blue Jackets taking on the Tampa Bay Lightning at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. Blue Jackets coming off a 5-4 overtime loss at home to the LA Kings on Monday. And they're looking to get back in the win column with a win over one of the top 5-10 teams in the league in the Tampa Bay Lightning. And then we got the Detroit Red Wings taking on the Florida Panthers at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. And then we got the Calgary Flames taking on the New York Rangers at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. Both teams playing a back-to-back set in this one. Flames coming off a 7-3 road loss to the Capitals on Monday. The Rangers coming off a 6-2 road win over the Flyers on Monday. And now they're back at home when they have played poorly all this season. We'll see if they can extinguish the Calgary Flames and get a win at home in this one, or will the Flames put out the fire on the New York Rangers and give them another home loss? We'll have to see how that will go. And then we got the Pittsburgh Penguins taking on the Carolina Hurricanes at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. And then we got the New York Islanders taking on the St. Louis Blues at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. This game will air on TNT, True TV, and HBO Max for you guys to watch. Brayden Schenn returns to St. Louis after being dealt to the New York Islanders at the NHL Trade Deadline. He played 9 seasons with the Blues, in which he had 465 points in 650 NHL games, 181 goals, 284 assists for 465 points in 650 games played with the Blues. He also won a Stanley Cup with them back in 2019. So this will be an emotional night for the former St. Louis Blues captain and for the Blues organization and their fans. Then we got the VGK Vegas Golden Knights taking on the Dallas Stars at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Time. And then we got a Central Division showdown between the Utah Mammoth and the Minnesota Wild at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Time. That game will air on Hulu and ESPN Plus for you guys to watch. And then we got the Anaheim Ducks taking on the Winnipeg Jets at 7:30 p.m. Central Time. And then we got the Edmonton Oilers taking on the Colorado Avalanche at 9 o'clock p.m. Central Time. Connor McDavid versus Nathan MacKinnon. Two teammates for Team Canada at the Winter Olympics in Milan Cortina, Italy. Both going at it in this matchup. This game will air on TNT, True TV, and HBO Max for you guys to watch. Then we got the final game of the night between the Nashville Predators and the Seattle Kraken at 9 o'clock p.m. Central Time. A very important game for both these teams as the Kraken are currently in second place of the wild card spot in the Western Conference. The Predators, I believe, are 2 points out of a playoff spot in the Western Conference. But speaking of which, actually they're 3 points out. My bad. I actually have the standings pulled up here on my phone. But let's take a look at where each team stands in the standings, shall we? So, first place in the Central Division, we got the Colorado Avalanche. And then second place Central Division, we got the Dallas Stars. Third place Central Division, got the Minnesota Wild. In the Pacific Division, first place Anaheim Ducks. Second place Vegas Golden Knights. Third place Edmonton Oilers. And then in the wild card spot, we got the Utah Mammoth, 73 points. And then the Kraken with 67 points. Teams looking into the wild card playoff spot, we got San Jose Sharks, LA Kings, both with 66 points. And then Nashville Predators with 64 points. Winnipeg Jets with 62 points. And then that's it after that. Blues, Blackhawks, Flames, and Predators. Flames and Canucks, probably won't make the Stanley Cup playoffs. So that's why I didn't really mention those teams. But going on to the Eastern Conference, first place in the Atlantic. Who would have thought the Buffalo Sabres would be in first place in the Atlantic Division? First time in a while that the Sabres are in first place in the Atlantic Division. After that 8-7 win over Tampa Bay Lightning on Sunday. And in second place in the Atlantic, we got the Tampa Bay Lightning with 82 points. Third place, we got the Detroit Red Wings, 79 points. In the Metro Division, we got the Carolina Hurricanes in first place with 86 points. Penguins, second place with 78 points. Hopefully they'll still maintain that playoff spot with Sidney Crosby being out for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And then in third place, we got Matthew Schaefer and New York Islanders with 77 points. And then the wild card playoff spot, we got the Montreal Canadiens with 78 points. Boston Bruins with 76 points. And then teams looking into the wild card playoff spot in the East, we got the Columbus Blue Jackets, 74 points. Ottawa Senators, 73 points. Washington Capitals with 71 points. And don't count out the Flyers just yet, even though that they had that loss to the Rangers on Monday. They have 69 points. They are 7 points out of a playoff spot. 63 games played this season. There's still time for Philly to make the playoffs. Let's not count them out just yet. But that is the update on the NHL standings for both the West and Eastern Conference. And that's going to do it for this episode of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in as always. Really do appreciate it. Don't forget to hit that like, subscribe button on YouTube. And make sure to follow the Hockey Talk with TG podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. Episodes coming out every Tuesday and Thursday from 1:30 p.m. to 2 o'clock p.m. Central Time. And then 2:30 p.m. to 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure to hit that follow button, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, notification bell button, and that share button to share with your family and friends. So you can stay up to date on the latest episodes of the Hockey Talk TG podcast and the latest hockey news going around the league. And all the trending hockey news that's going on right now. This is the podcast for it. Number one podcast for all things hockey. Both of you guys have a great rest of your day. Keep God first as always. Be blessed. I'll see you guys on Thursday for another episode of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. Take care.